Well, hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Gary Hartstein. I'm the director of the Digital J Learning Network here at the Jewish Education Project, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the latest in our ongoing series of online professional learning sessions. Digital J Learning is very excited today to have Amy Alamar from Activate Instruction here as our special guest. I met Amy at the INACOL conference, the Blended Learning Conference this past November, and I got a taste for what Activate Instruction can do. You know, it's a free online resource that teachers are using to personalize learning for their students. I think you'll find it to be very user-friendly for both students and teachers, yet packed with a lot of power as well. So today, Amy's going to share with us a bit about Activate Instruction and give us some real examples of how real teachers are using this in real classrooms. So with that, I'll turn it over to our special guest, Amy Alamar from Activate Instruction. It's all yours, Amy. Thank you for being here with us today.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Gary. That's wonderful. I'm really excited to share some work with you guys, and I welcome questions either now or after the presentation as they come up. I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation with you now on screen, and then you'll be able to access it afterwards as well via a link. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you.
And Amy, well, while you're sharing that screen, just so anyone who's watching live is aware, there is a Q&A button. If you click that, you can actually pose questions that we will make sure to do our best to get them to Amy for her to answer. So use the Q&A tab to ask any questions that you have. Okay, Amy, thanks. It's all yours.
Great, thanks. So I work with Girard Education Foundation, and our mission is to support high-quality content for all students. And we designed Activate Instruction, and it's been working with just over 500,000 users in providing free content that's teacher-created and teacher-curated. When we were in the process of launching into our third year, we caught the attention of Guru, which is a very similar tool. So you'll notice there's two logos here, and I'm going to be talking about both tools. They're both being supported by the foundation, and they both follow our mission of sharing high-quality free content. So we're less focused on the tool and more about the content today. And I like to start having my audience think about sort of what excites them about using technology in the classroom to personalize student learning. It could be outside of your classroom as well, maybe in a pre-learning situation or in a review situation. And then also the challenges that you face in using technology. So again, it says in the classroom, but it can be outside of the classroom in a hybrid situation. So oftentimes, you know, and if you want to use the chat feature, please feel free, or the Q&A feature, but oftentimes the answers that we receive are things like we want more resources, we feel limited by our paid resources, we feel too scripted, and the challenges are we don't have the time, we don't know what's high quality, and we simply don't know how to use the tool. So those are some of the common answers that we receive among many others. And one of the things that Girard Education Foundation sought out to do was to help kind of fill in that gap. So we're thinking, you know, educators should have an easy way to access high quality content, but we know that it's really hard and that there's a lot of time constraints, and we know how busy teachers are and the number of students that they're serving. On top of that, we have Common Core, which is providing a lot of challenges. It's a great tool for us, but it's also providing a lot of challenges for us. And so, as I mentioned, Girard Education Foundation founded this tool, Activate Instruction. And Activate Instruction was designed to provide that content out there. When we were going into our third year, we discovered Guru, and Guru discovered us, and we found out that they were a really dynamic tool doing very similar work. And we had a really strong focus on curriculum and how teachers were vetting and curating their curriculum, which I'll talk to you about today. And Guru had a really dynamic tool with a lot of awesome features. And so right now you've caught us in a very exciting time where we are working to migrate some of our partner schools, their content over to Guru, and test out that tool and make sure it works for our content. And we'll be looking at migrating the content subsequently after for all of our users. I think that today, for the interest of sharing the content and how teachers are using it, I might pop around in both tools, If you've been using Activate instruction, I would encourage you to continue using it. It's going to be there, and when we migrate the content, your content will migrate over to Guru. And if you've used neither of the tools before, then I would go ahead and get you started in Guru. So I'll show you both tools, and you guys can make informed decisions about what it is that you'd like to do. The session outcomes that I'm hoping for is just to provide you with some resources. It's a pretty low investment. There's no charge for you, so check them out, see if they work for you. Thinking about how these tools can kind of help with your personalizing instruction, also the challenges that they might pose, and maybe come up with some possible answers in looking at other models that other schools are using. Or it may just probe a little bit and provide, you may end up with more questions than you had when you started, but that's okay too, because we can continue that dialogue. So I'm going to show you this slide here, kind of highlights a few of our models that we've been using with different schools and our tool, and then I'm going to pop back on my face so it's a little more conversational as I talk to you about these. So just to be clear that we're going to be talking about 4 pretty strong models of instruction, and we're looking at some more kind of starting as well. So hopefully you can see my face now. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. And I'll start by talking about teacher collaboration. So, and I understand you might be thinking, well, what are you talking about, this tool and how they're using it? And so what we'll do after I present on these different models, I'll actually jump into the tool and show you what they look like in there so that you have a better sense. I'd like to talk to you first about teacher collaboration, because I think if you're working in a more traditional district, or you're just starting with personalized instruction and you're not quite solid in it yet, this may be a really good jumping off point for you. Either Activate or Guru can be used to share curriculum and to co-create curriculum. So if you're creating what we would call a collection, if you're forming a list of resources, which could be PowerPoints, they could be worksheets, they could be links to different games on the internet, if you're collecting those into a collection or a playlist, you can share that with another teacher and actually build it together. So that's one really common use of this tool. It's great for the teacher next door who's maybe doing a unit with you that you can actually co-create and share resources directly, and you're actually tag teaming in person too. But it's also great to get ideas from other teachers who are out there, across the country and doing different things from you that you can get ideas from. So that's what we would call teacher collaboration, and I think that's a great way to start. Differentiation, we have schools using Activate and Guru in very deliberate ways for student differentiation. So that can look like remediation, it can also look like extension exercises, and also even just targeting a certain student or student group to pull out for specific training or retraining. So if you have a kid who you want to pre-teach because maybe they missed a day, or they're going to miss a day of school, or maybe a student who didn't quite understand the concept, or you're looking at their test results or some sort of assessment that you've done, a check for understanding, and you feel like they kind of need that again, you could do it for sort of that remediation and reteaching. For that student who's just moving on through the curriculum and isn't staying sort of at the pace of your classroom, you could use the tool to get them kind of moving forward and doing some extra resources and extra enrichment. So in those senses, you could consider differentiation, extension, remediation, but also differentiation just by interest level, breaking up within groups, doing different group work. And so there's all, as you know, the word differentiation is a loaded term in education. So you can absolutely use it in ways to kind of mark a student's personal progress, but also to do interest level or topic that you are teaching as well. We have a school, KIP LA, who is using Activate instruction to do what we call targeted student growth, and they use the MAP testing, that's M-A-P, and if they do it, I think they do it 3 times a year, and so they were seeing that the students weren't making enough growth from one test cycle to the next, and they wanted to target what's the Descartes skills. That's what the MAP testing offers you, these RIT score ranges, and they offer you these different skill levels that your students should be achieving within these ranges. And so they weren't really sure how to address the gaps. And what they did is they ended up creating a playlist to target each of the RIT score ranges, and then the students could work within their range and they could prepare for the next testing cycle. And so that's targeted student growth. It's really very targeted, and it's really you know, deliberate to get the students ready for something specific, a specific task, and in this case it's for a testing task. And then we also have a student-driven learning, and so we have students that are navigating their own way. So it still can be dictated by the teacher. The teacher can set up the collection or the playlist, but the student is driving their way through it. They're choosing what they're going through, at what pace they're going through, and the playlist or collection is actually written directly toward a student audience so that they'll see the language that is intended for them. Whereas with teacher collaboration, if I'm creating a collection or playlist, my language might be to another teacher. So I might say something like, in this collection, I would use this accompanying novel, and I would make sure I supplement with this kind of conversation in the classroom. But to a student, I wouldn't say that. To a student audience, I would say something more like, you know, in this collection, I want you to look for X, Y, and Z, and as you go through the resources, if there's one that doesn't interest you, I encourage you to skip to the ones that do. If you're struggling with this section, you know, and it's really targeted right for that student audience. So those are the 4 really strong models that we're seeing in our audiences, our school audiences, using our various tools, Activate and Guru. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into the tools now and show you what they look like and what those models look like. This isn't going to be a full-on demo, but if you would like to learn how to use the tool, you can do that, and I'll show you where to find that information. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to show you some features that you can use and what the content looks like, and keep the focus on the content. And if you choose to dig a little deeper, I would encourage you to go ahead and, you know, go into the webinars and learn how to use the tool a little bit more fully. So as I'm switching screens, if there's any questions that come up, please feel free to throw them my way.
You know, you'll probably get to this, Amy, but the playlists, are they teacher created? Are they auto-generated by Activate, or is it a combination of the two?
Oh, that's a great question. So our playlists are all teacher created. So Activate and Guru have not created these playlists. We work with schools who have had a specific need and want to target something. So that's where we came up with those models, is these schools were answering a specific question. So we have these map tests. We don't know how to deal with these gaps in the RIT score ranges. What should we do? And so they created those, and we've supported them in helping them think about how the curriculum should look and what would work for them. And so that's, but they're all teacher created and all teacher vetted and all teacher you know, posted and published.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I usually pause here actually just to show it is a free tool. A lot of times teachers think, wait, for real, is it free? It is a free tool. I'm in Activate right now, and we'll switch over to Guru in a minute. You can actually search anything on our site without typing in even your email address. If you do want to sign in, which I do obviously, then you can go ahead and start to curate and collect your own favorite playlists and follow certain teachers that you like. And you'll notice that I got a few more tabs up here. I can start to create my own playlists and my own resources. And I have my stuff, which allows me to look through the content that I've either created and or I'm following and collecting. I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to talk about terminology so I'm not just throwing words out there at you and confusing you. A playlist is a set of resources, and then in Guru we call it a collection. On Activate and on Guru we have resources, and those resources here are very simple, granular pieces of information. So it can be a simple link, it can be a PDF, and it can be you know, a YouTube video, whatever it is that you want. And a playlist, I'm scrolling down through all of my resources here, and a playlist is a combination of those resources. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump right into the KIPLA playlist so you can see what I'm talking about when I talk about targeted student growth. In this playlist that you're looking at right now, all of KIPs are marked KLA, so you can find them KIPLA. This is the RIT score range that they're targeting. So it's within operations and algebraic thinking in 161 to 170. So that's how they're grouping them. So the students can easily identify where they're going. Then they list these resources for the students. So the student can pick and choose which one they want to focus on. And you can see this is a set of links. This is an assessment. And here are some YouTube videos. Or I shouldn't say YouTube, they could be any kind of videos. And they can scroll through, and you can see there's a lot of Descartes skills that they're trying to achieve in this one playlist. So this particular playlist may take a student, you know, up to a week or two to get through. It depends on how much time is offered in the setting that the teacher is using. And typically in the classrooms at KIPP LA, this is partial part of the class. It's not going to be the full class that they focus on this. So that's one example of an Activate playlist where it's really geared toward a specific audience. And I'll look at one more Activate playlist for you so you can see one other example of how people are using it. So in this playlist that I'm about to go on, we have Summit Public Schools. And Summit Public Schools uses Activate in a really different way from KIPP LA. They have the students on the computer for about 9 hours a week during the school day, where they are going through the playlist and getting a lot of their cognitive skills, and then they're using the rest of the time in the classroom to do project-based learning. So you can see in this particular playlist, it's really speaking toward the student. And remember, I talked about it's important to know your audience. So here you see the essential question is there right for the student. It actually tells them by the time you finish this playlist, so they really are aware of what they're doing. Their playlists are a little bit shorter because they go through about, I believe it's about a playlist a week per subject, and so they keep them really concentrated. It's not really as much of a, they can pick and choose which resources they use, but it's not, they do have to get through all the playlists, so it's not as much of a pick and choose process, but going through the playlist is definitely up to the student how they do that. They provide a assessment at the top of the playlist and at the bottom another assessment, and so the student, depending on how they do on this one, they can kind of work their way through, and if they feel like they did really well in the diagnostic, they can skip right to the mastery assessment at the bottom of the playlist. So that's what Activate looks like, and those are a couple of our partner schools and different audiences for you to look at. I'm going to jump over to Guru now. Again, a very similar tool, a little more dynamic, has some more features for you, and so I think it offers some more opportunity for teachers to kind of play around. And again, the content that I showed you from Activate, we're working on migrating that into Guru, so hopefully you will have both sets of content for you to enjoy in one tool. Again, you've caught us at an exciting time, but I understand if there are a few questions about that, follow-up questions, feel free to ask. So when I'm in Guru, the first thing I'm going to point you toward when you're at gurulearning.org is this Getting Started with Guru. And if you click that, it'll actually take you to webinars and tutorials, so you can learn how to, like, all the ins and outs of the tool. And that's a really great place for you to go if you're just starting to learn it and you want to kind of figure it out. I'll jump around and show you some of the features and some of the content in here as well, so you can see. And remember, we're going to now switch from playlist to collection, and folder is a set of collections. So that'll be sort of our terminology we use as we scroll through here. So what's really nice is there's a very good search engine here, and you can search by resources, which again are those granular pieces, those links or those videos, or you can search by collection. And collection is like a playlist. It's a curated set of pieces of resources, really, that a teacher has intentionally placed together. And so again, we want to focus on high quality content, and you want to make sure that things are something that another teacher would use if you're thinking of using it. And so here's one example of a collection that I'll pop through, which will help us to show you some of the features. After I search, if I decide, oh, I only want science or math, or I only want a certain grade level, or I want to search by the standard, the Common Core standard, or the Next Gen standard, I can do that as well. So there's this nice filter here on the side. Once I go into a collection, I would just click on it to go in. You'll notice there's a oops, I lost my screen there. You'll notice there's an X right here. So if I want to get out of it at any time, I just click that and I'm back to Guru. And when I'm in Guru, in the collection, I have this option to study. So it's very learner friendly. And you can see this one is this one's written toward a student or a teacher, this scripting, but the scenario of studying it and going through it is really toward a learner. I can see up here, if I want to scroll through sort of at quick glance, I've got a video, I've got a question, I've got some interactives, so I can kind of see what I've got going there on the screen. If I go ahead and click study, the teacher is allowed to give me now some more information. So this is, I can click I got it, or I can read it if there's specific directions on how the teacher wants me to use this resource. Then I can, read through it and go back to that if I need that. It's just right back up here. I play my video, which I won't do at this point because of time and sound. And when I'm done with it, I can rate it. I can say I really loved it, I didn't like it, and that will tell me, basically, as a teacher, is this resource being used and is it rated well? As the student or learner, because it doesn't always have to be sort of the K-12 student, flips through the different resources and gets to the end of a collection, you can see the time spent on the collection itself, the number of correct answers. Remember I told you there were some questions in there. Well, I didn't answer any of them right on this. And then if I had clicked submit for my reaction, the rating, that would be in there too. So the student gets this sort of instant look at how they're doing, which I think is really phenomenal, and they can kind of see, what they want to do next with regard to that. But also, the teacher gets a report if they've assigned this to their class, and it looks like this. They can see, did the student mark, a frowny face, a happy face. This one actually says, like, I don't understand it. You see how well they did if they tried it twice, but then they got it right, if they got it wrong, or if they got it right. You can actually see how much time they spent on each resource. So if you're getting a frowny face here, I don't understand it, and they spent 5 minutes and 53 seconds, depending on the resource, that may be that they spent plenty of time on it. If it were 20 seconds, then you go, well, you know what, geesh, I'm not surprised you don't get it. You didn't really look at it. So that's some really valuable instant information that a teacher can get on a class, and there's the ability to assign those collections to a class, which is a new feature for us at Activate, so that's very exciting. So I'll show you through another collection here. I talked about teacher collaboration, and we have also a folder view, which is a set of collections, and this is an example of a teacher at High Tech High who is using this for teacher collaboration and showcasing of product. So they get a lot of visitors every year, and they have a need to really show their work so that they can help others learn how to do true project-based learning. And so this is one example of a project-based unit that this teacher, Alec Patton, has put up. And you can see that just like in Activate, they can put their bio there, you can follow them, and this is actually one of the projects that he posted. And he separated the collection so that there's the final product, which is a book that he writes with his students. Here's some of the resources, and so each of those is its own collection that you can go through to do this project. So that kind of shares with you the different usage models that we have. I've shown you a few of the features, the search tool, the collaborating, and then I'm going to look at one other thing. I've showed you the analytics, and I'm going to show you one other thing to note in Guru is we have these libraries. And so you can make a community library, a district library for a specific school district, or if you have a school or an organization that would like a library, you can do that too. And it's a nice way to feature content for a school if it's something of interest to you, to provide that information, especially if you're a school that maybe wants to replicate the model, or you are replicating another school's model. It's nice to have that library of content available for you. I'm going to go ahead and pop my little beautiful mug back, so hopefully you can see me now. I've shared with you about the content, how teachers are using it, how schools are using it in very deliberate ways, and two different tools. Again, if you're new to both tools, I would start in Guru because we're looking at migrating the content over there, and I think it's a dynamic tool that will suffice for most of your needs. If you're currently using Activate, don't worry at all. You can keep using it, and you will get communications about migrating your user account over there. I'll pause for any questions. That was pretty much my plan of sharing. I don't know if there is anything.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, Amy. First, you were talking about the playlists and about following teachers. Is that like you might follow someone on Twitter or Facebook? Can you tell us a little more about how the following works and what someone has to do to, I guess, use someone else's resources? If I go on there and there's resources that other teachers have put together, how do I find them and how do I find good people to follow? And once I do, how do I take advantage of it?
Great question. So yes, you can follow people and then you see what they're posting. So it's a really easy way to go in and see. And if you want, I'll just flip back really quick over to show you. I'm following, Alec Patton, who I shared with you. And so if I go over to my own account here, I'm signed in, and that's my own account, and it shows who I'm following, and there he is right there. And if I really like what he's got going there, if I really like this collection that he has, I can actually just remix it. Here's this option here, remix. And when you remix it, it actually adds it into your own collections, and you can augment it, you can edit it, you can take certain resources out, or you can add in new ones and keep everything that they had. You can change the description. So you can really make it your own without reinventing the wheel.
Great, thank you. And as far as these collections, or if it's an Activate the Playlists, so would a teacher have one playlist per class, or would there be, if I'm a teacher, would I be creating playlists for different students, or would it be one playlist and then I'm modifying for different students? How does a teacher work with it, with a class with students who have different needs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it's really it's up to the teacher, and we can help you think through that process if you're new to it and you're just like, I don't have any idea where to start. But what I would encourage you to do is start small. So if you're new to it, you start with one playlist, and maybe you make the pre-teach, the content, and the reteach all part of the same playlist. And it depends how you use the computers or the devices in your classroom too. So you have to think about all of this. You have to think about your audience, and that's why I wanted to share those specific models with you, because if you're somebody who doesn't have one-to-one in your classroom, or you have a shared set of laptops that you get once a week, your model's going to look different. If your kids don't have computers at home, then you can't do a flipped classroom. So you kind of have to think about your audience and your implementation before you think about your curriculum, and do a little bit of backwards design. So what I would encourage is to start with one playlist in one class for one set of students and see how it works, and then it'll your usage model will kind of emerge. These usage models I shared with you, they're still relatively new, but they've been in the works for a long time. So it's not like the school decides, hey, we're going to do a student-driven model, and now we have 800 playlists, which Summit has, right? Now we have 800 playlists up there for you to use. It doesn't happen like that. So you start small, and you decide with a really deliberate way, how am I going to use this for this student or these students? I wouldn't recommend doing it, well, there's one school that we know of, Delta Elementary up near Sacramento, and they are doing it for a small group of children, and they're doing an enrichment program. So their playlists are for a select few students who really need some pushing. They're just beyond the mainstream content, and they need a way to reach these students. So that is for individual students, or a small set of individual students. But typically, I would think about your playlist for a group to start, just like you would with teaching, and then how are you going to differentiate? Because if you start making a different playlist for each student, you're going to drive yourself insane.
That's some good advice, Amy. Thank you. And as far as putting content in, I know certainly if we find a great playlist, we can use some of that content or all of it. As far as going out and finding other content, I know you said you can put different types of content in there. Do you have, or through your website or the instructions that you have, are there examples of places where people are going to find some of this content on their own, or is it pretty much users find what they want online and bring it in themselves, and it's completely independent of what you support? I'm just kind of curious how that all plays together.
That's a great question, and for the most part, we are hoping Guru is that place that people go to look for that content. And so if you start in there, that's a great place to start. But we also, I don't know if you noticed at the libraries, there are some organizations, not just schools. And so we don't promote any specific place that you should go look for your content, but you could look through the library to see where some of our partner organizations and schools are posting things. It's important to us to keep this free and open, and so you won't find published content on there. We don't want anybody Xeroxing, textbooks and posting that on, but we would highly encourage you to create your own content.
So if I find YouTube videos or Khan Academy or things like that, anything that's a free resource online that I might use, I can go ahead and bring that in.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm a teacher and my school pays for a subscription to some kind of online content that I want my students to have, but certainly wouldn't want people from outside using that piece, is there a way that I can incorporate those items into my playlist, but so that there's no copyright infringement for other people looking at it?
That's a good question. I'd have to get back to you on. Right now, everything on there is meant to be free and open, so we wouldn't have that. There may be something that we could, I'm not sure if there's an option for that or not, but at this point I would say that anything you put on there should be free and open.
Okay. So it's not like the teachers don't necessarily have an option that I'm just going to make this private. If you go on there and put a playlist up there, it's by default public, and that's...
No. So on Activate it is by default public, but you can make it private, and on Guru it's by default private and you have to publish it. So I suppose if you wanted to put something, but I wouldn't encourage that because that would go against the user agreement. So you want to keep it free and open.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. When we were talking before, you had mentioned some tutorials online. Mm-hmm. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about if somebody wants to get started, wants to learn more and figure out how this works? Can you maybe show us? I don't know if it's possible for you to show us. If at the very least, we'll put links up when this is over and we show the video. We'll have links to any of these resources. But can you maybe at least tell us or show us a little more about where those tutorials are and how people access them and what they're going to get out of them?
Absolutely. And let me also add to my last comment too about the like licensed curriculum that you may be using. One of the things that I encourage teachers to do when they're putting curriculum up is if you're using like a specific textbook, it's great to put that in the description, like this curriculum follows this textbook, and that way another teacher using it will know, okay, well, I'm not using that textbook, but this one should suffice, or, oh, I have that one, or I know something that works for that. So you could provide that context for other teachers, which is helpful as well. And then back to your newer question, absolutely. Let me just take you back to my screen. And I will show you on the Guru homepage. So if I close this collection I'm in and I just click to the Guru homepage, and I don't need to be signed in to see this, there's this button here that says Get Started with Guru. And there are webinars, and there are different little, so here's tutorials for specifics, and there's a quick start chart, which is a PDF for you to kind of look at. There's also different ways for you to look at the teacher stories on here, and I think you'll find a lot of different a lot of different things to look through on here. And there's some events. I think there's an event calendar right here, events and webinars. Check out our events, and so that'll show you what they're doing.
Can you tell us, when you say the teacher stories, can you tell us a little more about what those are?
Oh, absolutely. So the teacher stories are really just just like what I've done with you to kind of show you how the content looks and why it looks that way. We have actual interviews with teachers that say, I've been using Guru in my classroom for kindergarten, or I've been using it with my 11th grade science, and this is why it's helpful. And they're just like 5 minutes usually or less about a teacher, just kind of how they're implementing it. And it's nice because if you're a teacher and your site doesn't have sort of the buy-in to do this in a really concerted way in the ways that I've shown you in sort of these big, broad school implementations, you can still do it as a teacher on your own and work from the bottom up, which is actually very desirable in education from my perspective. So I think that's a really great way to affect change, and the way other teachers will learn about it is through word of mouth. And so that's something that you could do too, is learn from another teacher's story. And any of these stories I've shared with you could be done at a small scale as well. You could always use it You could use it just to communicate with your parent community. You know, you could use the tool for anything. Anybody can sign in and get an account with it. The other thing I was just going to share with you is there is a specific webinar that you can see on the calendar, and it's Guru 101, and that will train you on all those features I showed you that you could, look at you could remix something and create your own, and it gives you the time and instruction to do that, and it gives you the quick start chart and a user guide, and so you could go in and learn how to use the tool. And then there's a Guru 201, which is a coach training. So if you decided, I'm loving this tool and I want to support other people on my campus who are using the tool, then they could do the coach training, which is Guru 201, and then they could actually learn a little bit more about the tool and a little bit more about how to implement it with curriculum and helping other teachers at your site.
Great, thank you. So basically, for people that want to learn more, they can not only do tutorials to learn how to work with it, they can also watch some short videos from teachers who are actually using it and really hear specifically how this elementary school teacher is using it in 5th grade math, or how this high school teacher might be using it in a science class, or whatever it happens to be.
Absolutely.
Great.
And I think it's important to note that that's all free. You can do the Guru 101 and 201 webinar for free, so the training is all included.
Fantastic. All right, and the last question that I have for you, we've been hearing how this is all free and free. Every time people hear free, they tend to get a little wary. Can you just kind of tell us how it is that you're able to bring a free tool that's open to anyone in education who wants to use it and be able to keep it that way? How does that happen?
So the funding for Activate Instruction was through Girard Education Foundation, and so that is something that was at the heart of the foundation. It was founded to do that, and so that funding came from there. And then now Girard Education Foundation is also supporting Guru as well as several other grants from other organizations. Yeah.
Great. So it's not only free; it's nonprofit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, that's great. All right. Well, Amy, thank you so much. I think we've really learned a lot about Activate and Guru, and I think for new users, especially the Guru, is probably where they would be starting, which I think most of the people watching this probably are new to the product. So that's great. We got a really nice overview. Thank you for sharing all that with us. Just to let everybody know, if you happen to be watching this live, we will have the video posted online afterwards. Hope in the next day or two we'll have it up there on our YouTube channel, and we should have some complimentary resources to go along with it, including any of the links. And if there's some of the links to places that Amy shared with us today, we'll make sure to have those available online, as well as contact information if you want to reach out to Amy or Activate or Guru to get more detailed information there. Yeah. So Amy, again, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here, and we look forward to learning more and seeing more from Guru and Activate as time goes on.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.